This show is made possible by Workplace Assured. Workplace what? Workplace Assured. It's like having a really smart friend you can ring when you've got a really curly HR question. Which means, as the business owner, you can worry less about issues like wrong pay rates, leave entitlements and unfair dismissal, and you can focus on the big stuff. Like, what are you going to say in that next Facebook post? You know, the really big stuff. You can trial Workplace Assured for free today by calling 1300 496 955. And we're also made possible thanks to the very good folk at Key Person of Influence, whose New York Times bestseller, and it is a ripper, will show you how to perfect your pitch, get your book written, create a product ecosystem that is amazing, raise your profile, and partner with high performers. You can get a free hard copy delivered to your door for free at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. Hey team, today we go old school. Yep, old school, as we remind ourselves about the power of integrating old school marketing, aka basically anything offline, with your online marketing efforts. Let's do this.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, Australia's #1 marketing podcast. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, but you, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you are ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. And that's exactly what we do around here. It's why this show exists, because marketing is the fast track to business success, in my honest opinion, in my humble opinion. Humble. Not something I've been referred to of late. Hey, big show today. We revisit a past but extremely relevant guest who I spoke to first way back in episode 163, which was in November 2013. But it is still highly relevant. She owns a martial arts studio in New York and is very successfully integrating some old school marketing with her online presence. I share another low-cost marketing idea in What Have You Got to Lose? Today's idea will show you how to create an ebook, which in itself would be quite old school really, but they're still highly effective, let me tell you. And we go back into the Small Business Big Marketing Vault, revisiting an episode in which my guest invested time and money into creating a scent that would be SCENT for her brand. Oh, plus we finish off with a fantastic new song called Love Light by Lockie Doley, who very kindly wrote the music bed for this show a few years ago. Lockie's got a new album out. It is absolutely fantastic. I don't normally get the opportunity to play music on this show because of, you know, all the hullabaloo you got to go through, but Lockie's kindly given me permission to do so. You can check him out, LACHYDOLEY.com. Grab a copy of the album if you can't wait. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. All right, coming up, we catch up with New York martial arts studio owner Carmen Sognonvi, who's got not only an inspiring business growth story, but is the master, or actually should that be mistress, of integrating old school marketing with new school marketing efforts. But first, what happens if I push this button?
What have you got to lose?
Oh yes, it's time for one simple yet effective marketing idea that you can implement immediately. It's not going to cost you a fortune. It might just generate you more awareness, more inquiry, and ultimately more sales. Love more sales. Today's idea is to create an ebook to help build trust with your prospects. Now, as a business owner, it's probably safe to say that you possess a rather large amount of experience and knowledge on a particular subject, industry, or type of product or service. Am I right? Thought so. You might be sharing your insights and expertise with other people on your team, in one-on-one conversations with customers, or in the blog posts that you publish on your website. But have you ever thought about packaging your advice, stories and tips into an ebook? Be a good idea. It's a great and pretty easy way to start getting the word out about your business, leveraging yourself as an industry influencer. You should be doing that, and adding more email addresses to that database of yours. So, here's my 3 steps to creating an ebook. Step 1, decide on the topic and title of your book. To pick a topic, think about the most common questions you get asked from customers, review the content you've previously published on your blog or elsewhere, and do some initial keyword research to see what's ranking well around the topic you've chosen. Step 2, write an outline of your ebook. You know, like you used to do, you'd plan an essay when you're at school. Do it that way. Then write the ebook. To keep it simple, you might want to consider a format based on, say, 9 points that answer a key question. For example, I might write an ebook titled 9 Secrets to Monetizing Your Podcast, each chapter expanding on 1 point. I might write that book one day. Hey, step 3, when you have your content ready, build your ebook using PowerPoint or Keynote or Canva, or hire a freelancer. I would prefer you hire a freelancer and not focus on design, unless, of course, you're a designer. Focus on what you're good at. And here's my pro tip. Create a simple opt-in form to place on your website. You want to put this form up as soon as you can, so that you can start promoting your ebook and collecting email addresses from people who are interested in reading it. This is a great way to not only build your email database, but it will set a deadline for you to get that ebook done and dusted. As always, there'll be links in the show notes to any resources over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com349 that I mentioned, including a link to Canva. I love Canva. I must interview the owner one day. She's an inspiring woman. Fiverr. I'll put a link to some designers on Fiverr that you could use. And there's also a great article that I'll share by HubSpot on how to turn blog posts into an ebook. Hey, if you'd like any help implementing the ideas I share in this segment, go ahead and join the Small Business Big Marketing Club over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where I'll personally support you on your marketing journey. So, what have you got to lose? Support for this show comes from Workplace Assured. As business owners, we know a lot about whatever it is we sell. But what about when it comes to running the HR part of your business? All those niggly, unanswered questions you just aren't trained to answer. Questions like, what if one of my employees starts bullying others? What if an employee gets blind drunk and abusive at a social gathering? Or how do I cancel an underperforming supplier's contract? Oh, the pain. Well, listen, it doesn't have to be that way. What if you could focus on building that beautiful business of yours, knowing that the answers to all these questions and more were just a phone call away? Well, that is absolutely possible thanks to Workplace Assured. No crippling claims or eye-watering legal fees, just solid answers to your most pressing questions. You can try it out now for free by calling Workplace Assured's advice line on 1300 496 955. Righto, you know, a lot of marketing talk these days centres around the internet. And fair enough, after all, we are who Google says we are, right? But great marketing isn't just about how impressive your digital footprint is. One thing I'm very passionate about is how old school marketing techniques still work incredibly well, even in this digital age. And especially if you link them to your online efforts, you can really turbocharge your marketing success. And that's where today's guest comes in. Carmen Sognonvi is the owner of Urban Martial Arts, which is a martial arts school in Brooklyn, New York, that seamlessly integrates old school marketing with online marketing efforts. You can check out her website over at urbandojo.com. Now, Carmen is no slouch at all when it comes to small business marketing, with her views on that topic being featured in numerous media outlets, including Inc., Entrepreneur and Fox Business. And up until recently, she's also been blogging on her own site over at Carmen Sognonvi, SOGNONVI.com. But she's now started another side hustle, blogging about premium family travel over at topflightfamily.com. I like a side hustle, but that's not why we're here. Because during this chat, we talk flyers, info booths, school drop-off as a marketing opportunity. Who would have thought? Local fates, plus the power of marketing automation, videos, lead capture, and so much more. I started off by asking Carmen about how Urban Martial Arts began.
So Urban Martial Arts is a martial arts school that my husband and I run. We opened it in 2008, and we offer karate classes for kids, and then for adults, we do fitness kickboxing.
Very much a family-run business?
Absolutely.
Okay, and it's for all ages too, yeah? So from kids to grown-ups?
Exactly, yeah. We usually start kids at around 4 and up, and then we train them all the way through to when they're adults.
Now, I was watching, I hate that word corporate video, but it's a bit of a story. You've got a 9-minute video on your site that talks about the business and how it came into being. Interesting story. Your husband had a car accident. He was working in corporate America, had a car accident, and a bit of an aha moment.
Yeah, exactly. So, my husband and I, this was before we were married, before we had any babies. We were both working corporate jobs, and we also were both working actually 1 to 2 side jobs on top of that. So, he was working security at a restaurant and bar. I was doing some hostessing on the side, and I was also actually launching kind of a separate career, also blogging and speaking about race. I was very involved in racial justice activism. And one night he was coming home from having worked, what was probably like close to an 18-hour day, and he got into a really bad car accident. And he got out of the car was totaled, and miraculously he came out without a scratch. And, the emergency responders couldn't believe what they saw. And I remember he came home that night, and it was really one of those classic wake-up calls where we realized, we really need to make a change in what we're doing, because it just felt like we were like hamsters on a wheel. We were running and running and running, but not getting anywhere. And we were really working hard, but not smart. And then also for Serge in particular, he also felt like he needed to start doing something where he was really making an impact on people's lives. He felt like that was really missing for him. And so he actually started training again in martial arts. He had been doing karate since he was about 10 years old, but he'd taken a break from it, when he entered the working world. So he started training again. And 6 months after that car accident, we actually signed the lease on the karate school. And then a few months after that, we opened our doors. So it was really kind of all stemming from that one incident.
How inspiring. It's interesting here you talk about that whole escaping the corporate shackles thing. It's been a bit of a theme on this show the last few weeks. And you probably don't know, but when I introduce this show, I welcome back all the motivated small business owners. Yet I know for a fact there's lots of people listening to this show who are trapped in the cubicle, as I say. So
Sure.
Hearing that kind of story and having the courage to actually go and chase the dream, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think too, those people who are still trapped in the cubicle, so to speak, you can absolutely do it. But I would also say, just to play devil's advocate, I'm a big fan of hanging on to your day job as long as you can. Think of it as a way to fund your business. So it's just a source of financing. Work your day job as long as possible. In our case, Serge actually kept his day job for the first 6 months of our business, and I hung on to mine for the first year and a half. And it was really at that point that we felt like, okay, we're really we feel comfortable letting that go now and just living off of the business. And I think that because we did that, it put us in a better financial place. And when you're able to kind of operate from a place of financial strength and not making decisions based on fear, that can ultimately, I think, have a good long-term impact on your business. So just something to think about.
Yeah, no, interesting. Well, there's two sides of that coin, isn't there? There's the insurance almost of maintaining that day job and it allowing it to bankroll what it is you want to do, your dream. And then there is the other side of the argument, which says, if you're going to really lean into something and chase it, then you've got to have 100% focus on it. So you've got to have the courage to leave the day job, not have that insurance. But, reality, cash flow is the reality there.
Yeah. And I think you will find the right time for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, listen, let's talk. You've got this karate, you've got this martial arts school. I was going to say karate school, but it's martial arts school, and it's going along really nicely. And part of that, I imagine, there's no shortage of martial arts schools around Brooklyn and the greater New York area. You spend a lot of time, and you're very passionate about old school marketing techniques, which really excites me because we spend a lot of time talking about online marketing techniques. So why the passion?
Sure. So I have to admit, I am also a big fan of online marketing. So I am a bit of a geek when it comes to that. And so I'm thoroughly on board with online marketing. But I think what sometimes people forget is that offline methods are still incredibly effective. So, just because you're doing a lot of online marketing, that's great, but that doesn't mean you should sort of throw out the offline baby with the online bathwater. So you want to keep that offline piece. And, I recently did an analysis of our customers and kind of where everyone comes from. And I found that a third, and this is today, a third come from word of mouth or referral, a third come from online marketing, and then another third come from offline marketing. So if we were not doing the offline piece, our business would be a third smaller than it is now. So, I think that's really something powerful to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk offline techniques. What are you specifically doing?
Sure. Well, I think some of the three most sort of major offline or old school marketing techniques we use are promotional booths, flyers, and signage. And I'll talk about promotional booths first. And by that, I mean any kind of an event where you have a table or a booth where you're promoting your business. So you're not selling anything at the event, but you're really there to kind of let people know that you're here, collect leads. And so, if you're in a business to business situation, that is very often a trade show. If you're business to consumer, that could be any other kind of community event. So for example, for us, we do a lot of street fairs, especially in the summertime. There's a lot of street fairs all over New York City. And so we'll work a lot of those street fairs where we'll have a table and we're really, getting out there promoting our business. And I think that with promotional booths, one of the mistakes that a lot of companies make is that they focus on giving out tchotchkes. I know that not everyone is that's kind of an American term. So tchotchkes meaning promotional items. So pens with the name of your business on it, stress balls.
How do you spell that?
I believe that's a Yiddish word. I think it's TCHOTCHKES. Maybe some of your listeners will correct me, something like that.
Yeah, well, we call that, so sort of merchandise type thing. So here's a stress ball, here's a pen, here's a key ring, boring.
Yes, exactly. Well, boring, but also there's a bigger problem. And, we actually made this mistake when we first got started. So the first year we were in business, we attended the street fair that was really the biggest event for the neighborhood that we were in, which is called Dimas Park, is part of Brooklyn. And so this particular street fair, we felt like, okay, we really need to go all in because this is our big break. And so I had this brilliant idea to create, to have a couple hundred red tote bags made, bright red with our logo really big on it. And I thought, you know what, we're going to give out these tote bags and everyone's going to walk around with this tote bag and they're going to be like walking billboards for our business.
Yep.
So it went well in the sense that the tote bags were incredibly popular. We were out of them within an hour or two. And they were walking around with our logo. However, what I realized is that there was nothing about giving out tote bags that was helping us narrow down to our ideal prospect for either karate or kickboxing classes. So we were not attracting the demographic that was really interested in our classes. Instead, all we were doing was attracting the demographic of people that were really interested in free tote bags. So what I really strongly advise businesses to do instead of just handing out stuff is instead to offer some kind of a trial or sample of whatever is your product or service. So in our case, we do group classes. Whenever we do a street fair, we'll offer 2 free weeks of either karate or kickboxing classes. And the reason that that's so much more effective is because now you're immediately narrowing it down to the people that are actually interested in taking classes with you. Now,
gotcha.
Yeah, so, not everyone is going to follow through with it, but at least you're now starting to narrow it down. And then even those who don't actually, sign up for a program, you can still continue to market to them because you have their contact information.
So, Carmen, are you signing them up there and then at the information booth, or are you just handing out some kind of coupon to get them to come down at some point in time?
We're not signing them up into an actual membership, but what we are doing is collecting their name, email, and phone number. And then we basically let them know that, hey, we're going to call you next week to schedule your first class. And then also, to that point, one of the biggest mistakes also that people make when they go to an event and they collect a lot of leads is they don't do any follow-up. And, this is something that I've fallen victim to as well. You come home with a huge stack of business cards, like let's say you go to a trade show, or in our case, it's a big stack of names, and we don't do anything. So one of the ways that we're really combining, old school marketing with new school marketing is, we use the software, which I don't know, you may be familiar with it, some of your listeners may be, but it's called Infusionsoft, which is, essentially kind of a CRM software, or they call it all-in-one sales and marketing software. So what we do is we kind of create an internal form that just has the basic contact information. So when we come home from a fair, I'll give the stack of leads to one of our staff members. All they'll do is just input the data into this form. And so they're in our database, but the magic happens behind the scenes. So basically, I've programmed this web form to automatically tag this person so that we know exactly what program they're interested in, and we know that they came from this particular street fair. It automatically adds them to our email newsletter. So next time we go to send that out, they'll automatically receive it without me having to do anything extra. And then it'll also automatically send them a text message and an email from us saying, hey, it was a pleasure meeting you at the street fair today. We're going to get in touch with you next week to schedule your first class. But in the meantime, check out this link for more information about our program.
And they opted in at the fair?
Yes,
is that right?
Exactly.
By you saying, hey, can we grab your name and email in exchange for a free trial? We're going to put you on the database and expect to hear from us on email and by phone?
Exactly. So now the worst case scenario, even if you completely drop the ball and you totally forget to call anyone back to schedule their 2 free weeks of classes, they're still going to hear from you because they're automatically subscribed to your email newsletter, which they've opted into. So that means that, you're not going to fall into this trap of forgetting to follow up with people.
Beautiful. I like that. And Infusionsoft is a very clever way, because you're not just dumping them into one big list either. You are really segmenting it into, Infusionsoft allows you to segment quite deeply. How are you segmenting your list?
Yeah, it's very good at segmenting. So we use tags, so we capture as much information as possible, and so we'll always tag them based on how they came to us. So whether they came to us through an event or through an ad, or they came to us through a flyer, we note down what program they're interested in. So are they an adult interested in doing kickboxing, or do they have a child and they want to put their child in karate? We will segment them on, well, once they're in our database, then we also do a lot of other stuff. So we'll, sort of have some automation going on with certain links in the emails that we send out. So if they click on an article, let's say about weight loss, then we'll tag them that way. So we know that, okay, this person is kind of interested in weight loss. So we do a lot of fancy things like that. But I would say primarily the important thing is how did they come to us? So what was the source? And then what program are they interested in?
Because all of a sudden, that is really interesting because it allows you to create very tailored messages. So it's not just in the fact that you are sending something to a group of like people, like, for example, parents wanting their child to start a martial arts course. You can then craft a message that's very tailored and personal.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it also really helps you figure out, on the marketing side, what's the ROI of each marketing thing that you're doing.
Okay, so information booze, I like that. Tell me, just with that, you go to those street fairs or expos or whatever they are with it may be just a table and a couple of staff members, or have you got some additional things where you've souped it up and you've got printed fold-out signage and all sorts of branding going on as well?
We do both.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what we usually, most of the events that we work, it's a very simple setup. So we just have a folding table and we have a vinyl banner that covers the front of the table. And then we do have our flyers there and we do hand out some of them. But really the primary goal whenever we work an event is to collect leads, not to just hand out flyers.
Great.
And one of the mistakes that I see a lot of businesses do is they just, if they're at an event, whoever is working it just sits behind the table.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something that you should avoid. So whenever possible, if you're working an event, it's best to have at least 2 people. So one person should be at the table, and then the other person, I recommend, should just be circling, walking around the whole event with a clipboard and forms, and just going up to people saying, "Hey, hi, how are you? I'm Carmen from Urban Martial Arts. We're offering everyone 2 free weeks of classes today. If you're interested, can I just get your name, number, and email, and we'll call you next week to schedule your first class."
Carmen, I love this. We, Melissa Brisbane, who introduced me to you, a listener of my show, and suggested I talk to you, one of her comments in the email was, this business is a small ma and pa business, as you, in your own words, say, but they're punching way above their marketing weight, which I love. You're a business on the street in Brooklyn, but I can already see why she's saying, you appear so much bigger than you are, which is a kind of interesting strategy in itself. Is it something you you try to be? Or it just by nature of the type of marketing that you do, you appear bigger than you are?
That's interesting. I think that, when my husband and I first opened the business, we felt very strongly that we wanted to really have the school have the warmth and friendliness of a mom and pop business, but then the professionalism and level of service that you would expect from a Fortune 500 company. So, when we opened the business, we were very deliberate about that. And so even when we, in the startup days, when we had very little money, we really invested some money in quality graphic design. So we had a really nice logo made. We invested in things like colored uniforms as opposed to the traditional white karate uniforms, which everyone else around us was doing. We invested in getting them customized with a big logo on the back. So when students were walking back and forth from class, people could see them and say, "Oh, wow, they go to that school." So we were really focused on differentiating ourselves from the beginning. Yep. And in fact, so much so that a lot of people, when they would first walk in, would say, "Oh, so where are your other locations? Where are you headquartered?" Because they would think that we were a big franchise when it was just us. So I don't think that we necessarily want to appear big, but we do want to be professional. So I think we're able to kind of strike that balance between that. And then also in a lot of our communication in our email newsletters, we really, every email newsletter starts off with a note from me and Sensei Search, which, we call him Sensei Search at the school. Mm-hmm. And so it's got a picture of us. So it's very clear that we are a mom and pop store.
Yeah.
So we're able to kind of, have some of the professionalism in terms of the visuals. But then the experience when you come in is very personal. We know everybody's, by their name. We send people birthday cards. So they kind of have that warm feel.
I love it, Carmen, because all these things that you're talking about, they're not costing a lot of money, and they're decisions around discipline and consistency. The decision around the uniform was a colour one, and there was a smart strategic reason why you had colour uniforms versus the traditional white. They were still going to cost. There was going to be a cost attached to them, and I'm guessing the cost differential was either nothing or very little. So, some of these marketing ideas, it's just smart marketing as opposed to, we've got to have deep pockets. Listeners, I'm talking to Carmen from Urban Martial Arts in Brooklyn, and I love speaking to someone in Brooklyn because so far we have had the mandatory Brooklyn siren police car drive past.
Yes,
I heard in the background.
I should have warned you about that.
I'm guessing you live near the subway. Because I hear rumbling trains go past, or...
No, shockingly, that's just cars.
Oh, wow.
It's that noisy.
Big cars.
Yes.
All right, let's get stuck back. So information booths, we've talked automation with Infusionsoft. So that's already, you're integrating the old with the new. You mentioned a couple of other old school marketing techniques, Carmen, in signage and flyers. Do you want to just touch on what you do there? Yeah,
sure. So let's talk about flyers. Flyers are, I think, the ultimate old school marketing technique. Yeah. And but they still work incredibly well. And in fact,
do you drop them out of planes and they just fall all over the streets of Brooklyn?
Yes, that's all we do.
Right, I thought so.
But when we first opened the school in 2008, within the first 6 months, we got from 0 to 100 students. And at the time, we didn't think that was particularly impressive. But later on, when we got to know other martial arts schools and kind of became more involved in the industry, we realized that a lot of martial arts schools had been around for 10 years and had never broken the 100-student mark. And the thing that is interesting is that we actually got our first 100 students purely through these old school marketing tactics. So we had a website, but it was doing nothing. So we essentially got our first 100 students just through flyering, essentially, what was the biggest marketing push that we were doing at the time. So it is still very powerful even to this day.
Letterbox drop, or what were you doing?
We were doing a lot of different things with flyers. So hand-to-hand distribution is something that we would do a lot of. And I think that, one of the mistakes that businesses make is that they just hand out a flyer to anyone with a pulse. And what you may not realize is that flyering, even though it's old school, it actually allows you to do some pretty sophisticated demographic and geographic targeting that would cost you a fortune if you were doing it through direct mail. And so let me give you a very specific example. So one of the programs that we have at Urban Martial Arts is we have an after-school program where we pick up kids from a few of the neighboring schools. We walk them over to our location. They get karate classes 5 days a week. They stay until 6 o'clock, so they're able to work on their homework, and then parents come and pick them up. So it's kind of a combination between martial arts classes and then also an alternative to babysitting for parents who need to work late. So for this particular program, we know exactly who our target customer is. It's a parent with elementary school age kids, so meaning kindergarten through 5th grade. They are a parent that works a 9-to-5 job. And that is really our target customer. And so when we, every September, the first week of school, we do a big flyering push for this particular program. And so what we'll do is we'll go to the 5 schools that we pick up from, and we'll hand out flyers to the parents in the morning as they're dropping off their kids. And now there's a reason that we do it in the morning versus the afternoon. The parents that are dropping off their kids in the morning are more likely to be our target audience than the ones that are picking up at 3 o'clock. Because if you're able to pick up your kid at 3 o'clock, you probably don't work a 9-to-5 job, or you don't need our service because obviously you're able to get there at 3 o'clock. And so, already by picking the time frame, we're narrowing in on our audience. Mm-hmm. Now, as we're standing there, handing out flyers, if we see a single guy walk past with no kids in tow, we're not going to give him a flyer. If we see a dad walk past with, let's say, an infant and a 2-year-old, we're not going to give him a flyer because visually it doesn't seem like he has elementary school age kids. The kids are too young for our program. Let's say we see a mom walking past with a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. Now, we know those kids are the right age for our program, but let's say she's in her pajamas. We're probably not going to give her a flyer because it doesn't look like she's on her way to work. So she probably doesn't work a 9-to-5 job. She may work, she probably may work nights or something like that, but she doesn't work a 9-to-5. So just by sort of eyeballing who it is that you're handing out flyers to, you're already able to target them if you have an idea of demographically, who's your ideal customer.
You are clever. You and Sensei Surge, they're targeted flyer dropping. I love that. In fact, I'll build on that idea. And if you do walk past the single bloke, or if you do walk past the mum with the younger kids, then maybe you should have secondary flyers in your back pocket ready for them as well.
Sure. And we do. It's not to say that we don't give them anything. But
I love that. Now, okay, I often talk on this show, Carmen, about message versus medium. So it sounds like you've really nailed the medium. The message on those flyers is just as important because, okay, cool, you're targeting a particular demographic of parents dropping their kids off at elementary school, and that's who you're after. But what appears on those flyers is really critical because at that point they're going to read it, once they arrive at work or at some point. So, do you spend a lot of time mulling over the copy?
Somewhat, yeah. I think that with our flyers, we always have one large photograph rather than a bunch of little photographs that you can't see very well. So one big eye-catching image. I'm sure you've already talked on the show many times about the importance of having an offer and a call to action.
Oh, yeah.
So we definitely have that on our flyer. But then also what we actually do is we specifically design our flyers so that they're really designed to extract the leads contact information to us. So in other words, I think when you hear about flyers, you often think, oh, this is a broadcast medium. So I'm broadcasting my business's contact information to prospects. But we really think of it as really a lead generation medium. So for our call to action for this particular program, let's say for after school, the call to action for us will be get the prices and details now. And they have a couple of different options. So they can either text, a particular keyword to a phone number, and then they will then automatically receive that information. Or we also have a custom URL that takes them to a specific landing page that talks about that program. Now, if they input their email address into that landing page, they'll get all the information that they're requesting. But again, through Infusionsoft, I've set that landing page up on the back end so that I know specifically this person is interested in after school. This person heard about us from a flyer. And, depending on what kind of campaign we're doing, I actually will have different landing pages on different flyers if I want to track it even on a more granular level.
Oh, I love that. So just to be clear too, going to those targeted landing pages or requesting a text message will require them to input some contact details. So they go to your list, yeah?
Exactly.
Love it. Love your work, Carmen. This is fantastic. So an Infusionsoft will help you with the landing page. That's not a text. They're not helping you with a text service, are they?
Not within Infusionsoft out of the box. They don't really have the texting, but we use a separate service called Fix Your Funnel, which integrates with Infusionsoft, and they have this really cool thing called SMS conversations. And the way it works is, you text let's say the word school to a particular phone number. Now, what you get back from me is a text saying, "Hi, this is Carmen from Urban Martial Arts. Thanks for requesting info on our after school program. May I have your first name, please?" So they input their first name. Then they hear back from me again. "And what's your last name?" They write that in. "Great. What email address should I send the information to?" They put in their email address. Now, the beautiful thing about that is that what it'll do on the back end is automatically create a new contact inside Infusionsoft, and it'll input the first name, last name, email address, phone number into all of the correct fields, tag them exactly the way that I've set it up so I know that they're interested in after school, they got to us from a flyer. And again, automatically add them to your email newsletter that they're opting into as well.
Do you find the more contact details you request, the higher the drop-off?
Yes. And so for our landing pages, we actually usually only ask for an email address. I find that using the SMS conversation, it's not, the drop-off isn't as much because it feels more like a back and forth, not so much that you're filling out a form. But so definitely, the more contact information you ask for, the lower your response rate is going to be.
And that's okay, by the way, because you are drilling down into quality.
Yeah. And then also, can I share kind of a little ninja trick that we use as far as that goes?
Well, you're a ninja.
That's true. So what we do with our landing pages is, as I mentioned, we only ask for an email address. That's it. We don't even ask you for a first name. Now, once you submit that, then, you'll get the email saying, hey, can you just click this link to confirm, blah, blah, blah. But immediately after you submit that, instead of just taking you to a generic thank you page, we say, hey, check your email for that confirmation email. But also, here's another thing. Join our birthday club. Get a free gift on your birthday. And then basically I have a form under there where it has much more information that I'm asking for. First and last name, mailing address, birth date. And so essentially it's kind of a way to ethically bribe them to give you more information. And then now because we're collecting a mailing address, now we're able to also reach them via direct mail. So, if you implement that kind of a two-step policy, two-step process, not everyone is going to take that second step. I would say on average, maybe, 20 to 50%, depending on what audience we're working with, will opt in for that extra, birthday club. But, it doesn't have to be the birthday club. That's something I honestly came up with off the top of my head because we didn't have anything physical to mail to them yet. But if you have something physical that they would be interested in, that, whether it's a physical brochure, maybe it's a book that you've written, maybe it's a CD, an instructional DVD, something physical and tangible that they understand you would need their mailing address for in order for them to get their hands on it. And obviously make it something relevant. That's definitely something to try.
That is marketing gold right there, Carmen.
They want to get my gold on the ceiling.
The other thing too, I wonder whether it would be a good thing, and having had three kids go to, between ballet and basketball and all these other things, we never did martial arts, but I know that whole experience is that it was nice to do it with another parent. So whether at some point in that automation process, you could kind of give them the ability to say, hey, refer, who else would you like to come along with you, when your child's doing martial arts, or, just the ability to refer, I suppose, is the idea.
Yeah, definitely. We do a bit of that, but it's really after they've become a member.
Tell me, okay, so we've gone information booths, we've gone flyers, we've gone into automation, text messaging. Let's talk signage.
Sure. So believe it or not, I know several business owners who are paying a premium for ground floor retail space in New York City. So you can imagine how expensive that is.
Yeah,
lots. And they do not have a sign on their door. And these are not businesses that are trying to be, the best kept secret. And, they're not trying to be that cool place that you need to know about to get into. They just don't have a sign. So I think mistake number one is you got to get a sign. So a bad sign is better than having no sign. So I think that's
Agreed.
The basics. Now, another mistake that I see people make is really relying just on their main sign. So meaning, the primary awning main sign that you have outside of your store. And, obviously that sign plays a really important role. But because it is such an expensive and fairly permanent fixture of your store, you're probably not going to put that level of detail on there. Or to phrase it another way, you're only going to put on that sign the things that you're pretty sure are not going to change probably for the next 5 to 10 years. So it'll be limited to, the name of your business, your basic contact information, and maybe broadly speaking, what it is that you do. So, we do martial arts, we do karate. So what you want to do is really explore using temporary and then also indoor signage. And what I mean by temporary signage is things that you can put up maybe inside your store window that would be suitable to promote maybe sort of seasonal specials that you're running, or maybe you're launching a new program. You're not sure if it's going to stick around yet. So you want to use that to promote that. And then for temporary signage, I like to use vinyl banners that have grommets, sort of holes in each corner. And then we stick them into our window using suction cups on the inside. So it's, it looks really clean, looks really neat, but at the same time, it's very easy to just take off and replace if we need to. And so, that way you're able to get the word out about other things that you do that you might not really want to put on your main sign because it doesn't really have that kind of a permanence. And then in terms of indoor signage, that's something that I think for those of your listeners who are retail, in the retail industry, they probably are already doing a lot of this, but maybe other businesses are not as up on indoor signage. But indoor signage is a really great way, especially to promote things to your existing customers. So as much as we would like to think that our customers know everything that we do, the truth is that they probably don't. They probably only know the piece of your business that they particularly buy into, and they may not know kind of the breadth of services that you offer. So let's say, for example, you're a bakery and you're best known for your cupcakes. So everybody comes in and buys your cupcakes. Well, let's say that you actually also do custom birthday cakes. That's a great opportunity to use an indoor sign where you can say, hey, we do custom birthday cakes. And then again, make sure, of course, you have some kind of a call to action. So maybe the call to action is, see our portfolio of sample cakes and get a pricing list. Hopefully you would say it pithier than I did.
Yeah.
But, that's the call to action. So indoor signage, I think, really important for kind of educating your customers about what else you do that they might be interested in.
Well, I think you've identified a couple of things. One is that too often small business owners look at signage as something permanent. Like we get the signs done and our work is done.
Right.
Never need to do those again. And I'm imagining some of those really old signs on really old shops, So number one, rotate it, keep the message. Because what happens when a piece of marketing, when a marketing touch point remains unchanged for a long time, it becomes wallpaper. It fades into the background. You end up not noticing it. Mm-hmm. So in changing it, often I think it's fantastic. And the other thing that you've done too is using signage to remind people about different aspects of the business they didn't know about, but also actually you still got the call to action. You're a call to action machine.
I try.
I say that with all the love in the world because I think, again, the question is, with any marketing output that we do as small business owners, is like, what do we want people to do as a result of it? That should be a primary question, almost the first question. Having seen the sign, having received the brochure, having looked at the website page, what do you want that person to do? And that therein lies your answer to the call to action. And I think on that, I'm on my soapbox now, Carmen, so sorry, but too often that call to action is, well, we want them to call us, or we want them to buy from us. But like, you've got to excuse the kind of French, but we've got to have a bit of foreplay. We've got to get to know each other.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing so brilliantly. So I knew there was a reason I got you on the show. Now, listen, I'm very conscious of the fact that it must be about 20 to 11 of an evening in Brooklyn right now. Is that right?
20 to 10. Because
20 to 10.
Okay, all right.
Well, we've got plenty of time. No, yes. Look, I won't keep you for too much longer, but I thank you so much so far for sharing this marketing gold.
They want to get my gold on the ceiling.
Now, let's talk. We've covered flyers, signage, information booths, automation. You are doing a lot online. It's not as if you're disregarding the brave new world of marketing, as I call it. You are quite prolific in video production with your YouTube channel.
Yeah, we definitely do a lot of video, which makes sense, especially since we are a very visual business. And I think, for those of your listeners who are in visual businesses, that's something they should think about. Anything that's food related or hair and beauty related, fashion related. I'm often surprised by some of the businesses that I frequent as a customer. that are sort of very visual, I'm often surprised that they're not posting more pictures. I'm a big fan of, this is speaking to some of my ladies now. I'm a big fan of tacky nail art, so gel manicures.
Me too.
I like tacky nails, essentially.
What are you wearing at the moment? What have you got at the moment? Bit of bling?
Right now, I have white on all of them, except my ring finger, which is totally blinged out.
I love it. I love it.
But this place that I go to really specializes in gel manicures, and the women that work there are artists. Like, they do really incredible designs all by hand, using these tiny little paintbrushes. And, they are somewhat active on social media, but, sometimes I think about the fact that, they're churning out probably 20 amazing works of art every single day. There's nothing to stop them from posting at least one every single day.
Absolutely.
So if you're in a visual business, definitely, you should do that. But so getting back to the video that we do, we're big on video. So we do a lot of events throughout the year. And, we used to not do video. And at one point I realized, our website is not, this is at a point when we had a much more static website. Our website really wasn't communicating all the cool stuff that's happening at Urban Martial Arts all the time. Every quarter we do a belt promotion, which is essentially our version of a graduation ceremony when all of our students perform what they've learned and then everybody receives their new belt. We do 5 to 6 karate tournaments a year. We do a lot of, little parties and workshops and camps. And so visually, there's a lot of events going on that it makes sense for us to, communicate, capture on video, and then share with our students so they can kind of share it with each other. And then also for those people who weren't able to make it to the event, they'll watch that and realize, wow, this looks really cool. I need to make sure that I make it next time. So video is really important for us, for sure.
And tell me, because there's so many blockages to small business owners cranking out some video, do you keep it really simple? Do you just get the iPhone out and wander around, or do you get a professional crew in on a semi-regular basis? How do you do it?
Yeah, we've done both. So the bulk of our video, I just shoot on a little Canon camcorder, it's pretty old at this point. It's like a Vixia HG20 that I got like 5 years ago. So it's just, a consumer HD camcorder that we use for most of the video that we shoot ourselves. And then, for some of the sort of more promotional videos that you see on the main pages of our website, that was done by a professional. So I don't have that level of quality.
No, well, I'm going to embed your, what would I call it? The story of urban martial arts. It's a 9-minute video that really shares your why and introduces you to the business, your family. It's fantastic. It's such a wonderful story. And, as a potential customer, you'd look at that and go, I'm in, count me in, which is obviously the intention. And now looking at your YouTube channel, breaking it down into, you've got videos about your programs, you've got the karate tournament videos, you've got parties and event videos, you've got karate belt promotional graduation videos. And again, there on every single video, there is the call to action. There's your phone number, dedicated URLs on it, clever. Are you using Lead Player?
No, because I don't know what that is.
What Lead Player? Lead Player, here's a nice little add-on for you. So Lead Player is a little bit of code that you drop onto your videos, and it will pop up it'll talk to Infusionsoft, and you can ask people to input their email address right inside the video.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm all over that. And that that works with YouTube as well?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Talks to YouTube. And in fact, Lead Player, I'll get into trouble for the people who invented Lead Player, but the reality is there's a video hosting service called Wistia, and I've had John Savage on, Chris Savage, I should say, who created Wistia on the show about 18 months ago. Wistia is a beautiful video hosting service, got some great analytics. They've just introduced an add-on, a free add-on called Turnstile. And Turnstile actually does exactly the same, which is allows you to embed a registration field into your videos, and it talks to Infusionsoft as well. So
that's fantastic.
there you go.
Thank you.
You are going to be all over that. Your subscriptions are just because every single one of those videos, I mean, your subscriptions, I imagine you'll see a decent increase. So, okay. Now, I'm just interested because, again, I'm looking at your videos and there's, some of them have got 850, one's got 815 views, one's got 20 views, which, again, people could look at that raw number and go, oh, that's not much. It's not much. But, again, it's not about, I don't think it's about quantity. It is about quality. What's your kind of thoughts on the traction you're getting with your video strategy?
Yeah, I guess I don't really stress the viewership numbers too much. I mean, maybe I should more.
No.
But I guess to me, it's really a bigger part of the content marketing stuff we do, which I can talk about a little bit. So what I try to do on the content side is, obviously whenever we have events, we'll post a video of that. So that's kind of based on whenever the events happen to be. But then in addition to that, what I try to do is we send out a weekly email newsletter. And we have one version that goes to prospects and then one version that goes to existing students. We used to just have one single newsletter that went to everybody, but I realized very quickly that it was getting a little unwieldy because, there are certain things that prospects don't really care about. Like they don't need to know that the next tournament is coming up and they need to register now because they're not even students with us yet. Conversely, our existing students don't really need to see me selling some kind of a membership special we're doing. So we decided a while ago to kind of split those into two different newsletters. And so what I try to do is kind of have the subject line is always going to point to one sort of informational piece of content that I created specifically for that newsletter. So, and then what that'll essentially be is a blog post on our blog. And I try to alternate it because we do have these two separate audiences, just to add to the level of complication. We've got prospects versus students. And then within that, we also have karate sort of people who are interested in kids classes versus people who are interested in classes for themselves. There's some overlap there, but not necessarily. And so what I try to do is alternate. 1 week, I'll have a blog post that's related to that's of interest to parents. And then the next week, I'll have a blog post that's of interest more to the kickboxing person. So someone that's interested in fitness or nutrition or weight loss or kickboxing. And so I kind of alternate between the two. And so to me, the videos are kind of an add-on to the main piece of content we push in each email newsletter. So, we'll kind of push that main content. And then underneath that, we'll also have links to, hey, did you check out the video from our latest event? Blah, blah, blah. And so I see them more almost like as a customer service thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. I get that. What's your open rate on e-newsletters? I sometimes get a bit of a chill up my spine when I think of e-newsletters because, there's many that I receive and don't open. What's your open rate like?
You caught me. I have not checked the open rate in a while.
Okay.
I have to totally
good. You are human after all. At this point, up until then, I thought you were superhuman, martial art, Karate Kid meets Gigantor. But,
I'm a call to action machine, but not an open rate machine.
Yeah, correct. You can get a T-shirt. I'm a call to action machine. There's a good T-shirt, actually. I like that. Tell me, just to finish off, Carmen, so appreciate this. Social media, you're active on Facebook, Twitter. Is there a particular role social media plays in the business?
I don't really feel like I'm that social media guru, I have to be honest. Twitter, to be perfectly blunt, has felt primarily like a bit of a waste of time for us. I feel like maybe it's because we're business to consumer, I still feel like even though a lot of consumers are on Twitter, I don't know, it just seems like most of the people that follow our account tend to be just other martial arts school owners. So there are other martial arts schools kind of checking out what we're doing, which is great. So it seems like for us, Twitter seems better for kind of professional networking. Facebook is a little more appropriate, I think, for our audience. And but I have to admit that I haven't been as active on Facebook as I should have, because for a long time I was really peed off by the fact that Facebook was making you pay in order to reach the people that already liked your page. So I think kind of out of spite for a long time, I was just kind of ignoring Facebook. But recently I've kind of gotten more into it, and especially since they've made a lot of changes to their advertising platform, and I feel like there's much more interesting and specific targeting that we can do. I feel like it's becoming a more relevant platform for us. So I don't have any major tips yet for Facebook. I'm still kind of in the experimenting phase right now.
Well, I love that because gosh, how many small businesses do I come across, and maybe you too as well, that just think social media is the silver bullet, and it's not.
Yeah.
It can be. Every now and then I come across a business that is using social really cleverly, but boy, if you think about time committed versus return on that time, it can be a real time suck for many small businesses and lead to just massive disappointment. And then they think the whole online marketing thing's, no good, and lose faith in it. So, no, I think, it's what you're doing. It's really, it's wonderful to have this old school discussion. Is there any marketing that you would love to try? You talked about Facebook, but anything that's sort of in the pipeline that for whatever reason you're not doing but would love to?
Nothing that we're not doing at all that I can think of. I think I want to just dive a little deeper into our social media efforts. I've been experimenting a little bit on Pinterest, and we've gotten a bit of results through that. So I'm interested in kind of continuing that. But just to your point about social media, how it can be a time suck, I would definitely encourage people to not forget about email marketing. I think email marketing is still incredibly important. And, for us, that has been a huge growth driver for our business. And as you have heard through this interview, we are very focused on always adding more people to our email newsletter database. And the reason for that is that I found that the lead time for signing up for a program can sometimes be a lot longer than you would think. So we have people that, let's say we met them at a street fair 3 years ago, and they've been on our email newsletter ever since, and they're now joining a program. So they've known about us for 3 years, and we've invested time in that relationship and building that trust. And then when whatever change in their life where they felt like, okay, now I'm ready to do this, they came to us, not to anybody else. So, and I've also, looking at our stats, what I have noticed is that any given month, about 20% of the new members that we sign up are people who've been on our email list 6 months or longer. So about 80% are kind of just fresh, brand new leads that came, they're ready, they joined. But then about 20% are people that we've been nurturing for a long time. So if this is not something you're already doing, if you're not already sending out some kind of a regular email, and maybe it doesn't have to be email, it can be a physical newsletter, but just that continuing communication, that could possibly add 20% or more to your business. So
and what a long-term play. Because what a wonderful realization, because to think that if you're doing all these marketing efforts and not getting that immediate return, again you can lose faith. But knowing that you're investing in the long term here, and that sometimes it takes 3 years for someone to decide to do a martial arts course, but they're going to choose us. I mean, that's good.
That's good. And that's I kind of want to emphasize that point. When we first started doing these promotional booths, we would sometimes get discouraged because we would come home with, let's say, 100 leads. We're only able to book, let's say, 20 free trial classes, and let's say only 10 people show them. And out of the whole thing, we only signed up 2 people. And so we would feel like, wow, that was a complete waste of time. We're such failures at this. And it wasn't really until we'd been in business for a few years that we realized that it is all about the long-term play, and that you have to really think about this as, you're collecting these leads now and you want to bring them into your fold and just nurture them. And then whenever, because I think also something you have to understand is it's not people don't buy on your time. They buy on their time. So you may have sort of captured them at that point and they were interested, but it doesn't mean that they didn't like what you had to say. There could be any number of reasons why they were not ready to jump in yet. Maybe their money wasn't right. Maybe their schedule wasn't there. They didn't have anyone to bring their kid to class. Whatever it is, what you want to do is make sure that you keep in touch with them, stay top of mind, so that when it does come time when they are ready, they think of you. They don't think of any of your competitors because you've already built that relationship.
Couldn't have said that better myself. What a terrible thing to finish on, but I have to ask, and I know there'll be listeners going, how much do you reckon she spends on marketing a year? Are you happy to reveal a kind of ballpark figure?
Again, I'm not even too sure. Let me just kind of think about it for a while.
I'll play some kind of on hold music if you like, a bit of music.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Not that much. A lot of the things we do are pretty inexpensive, since we do,
they are.
It's really just the cost of printing a lot of these flyers, and printing is so inexpensive these days, especially if you use an online printer. So I would say, well, let me just kind of break down what are the categories of things that we spend money on. So printing, I would say, is one category, and that's really fairly inexpensive. Signage, same thing, very inexpensive these days, other than, your big sign. These street fairs that we do, again, pretty inexpensive. It's usually just a couple $100 US dollars to have a table at one of these things. There is, of course, I have to pay my staff to be there. So there's that added expense, but the actual, booth is pretty inexpensive. We have experimented with some TV commercials this year. And so that is obviously much more expensive than some of these other things that we're doing. But again, in terms of that, we've only spent a few $1,000s kind of experimenting with that and doing some test runs. So I don't know. I think we don't really spend that much. Definitely, I would say definitely less than 10% of our revenues, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, brilliant. I love that. You are betting way, way above your marketing weight, as I assumed before you even came on. So, Carmen, thank you so much coming on the show and all the way from Brooklyn and sharing really what is marketing gold.
They want to get my gold on the ceiling.
I find it inspiring to hear this kind of old world marketing talk and hearing how it's working so well for your business. So may continue to work well into the future.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. And if I may, I do have a not very often updated blog where I talk about local, bricks and mortar marketing. So if you're interested in this topic, you're interested in some of the things you've heard, I have some videos that go into a little more depth on some of those. And that blog is basically carmensognonvi.com. So my first name, last name.com. And if you don't know how to spell that, it's Carmen. You can have a URL shortcut. So it's carmenblogs.com. And that'll take you there.
Oh, that's clever too. Call to action guru. Thanks, Carmen.
I try. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Old school marketer, Carmen Sognonvi of Urban Martial Arts in New York. You can check out their website over at urbandojo.com. You can also check out her travel blog at topflightfamily.com. As I said at the top of that interview, she's no longer blogging at Carmen Sognonvi, although the content is still there if you want to check it out. Coming up, I share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Carmen. But first, I'd like to give you a little insight into a program I participated in that literally turbocharged my business. Now, at the time I did this program, it wasn't as if my business was broken, anything but. Revenues were good, they were really solid. I had a loyal bunch of clients, and this podcast was doing a pretty damn good job at building my personal brand and business brand. I thought I had everything sorted. Who was I kidding? After stepping inside this 40-week incubator, I came out the other end with a magnificent pitch, a clear roadmap for my book, which is now written, called The Boomerang Effect, and an intimate understanding of how to create powerful partnerships to give my business some serious leverage. This program I'm referring to, you've heard it before, it's called Key Person of Influence, and it does exactly what it says on the pack. You become a key person of influence in your industry. But if 40 weeks inside an incubator sounds way too Blade Runner-esque, then at the very least, grab a hard copy of their New York Times bestseller. Have it delivered to your door for free, in fact, over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. But only do that if you want to be more visible, valued and connected in your industry. Okay, my top 3 attention grabbers from my chat with Carmen, thanks to Workplace Assured and Key Person of Influence. Attention grabber number 1, people buy on their own time, not on our time. I like that. That's why we should always have marketing initiatives out there working for our business, because we never know when people are going to be ready to buy from us. You know, someone might hear something you do today or read something you do today, but not buy from you for 3 years. That's cool. Just keep putting it out there, guys. Attention grabber number 2. I love the info booth at local fairs idea, and I particularly love the way Carmen works hard at grabbing contact details in exchange for a free trial. That is old school meeting new school right there. Speaking of that, attention grabber number 3, I just love Carmen's general respect for old school marketing and how it seamlessly integrates into your online efforts. You know, I have been accused in the past of talking too much about online, but it's not the case. I think there is an absolute role for both, where you can get your old school stuff sorted and your new school stuff, your online marketing, integrated in a way that they both bounce off each other beautifully, like Carmen is doing. Hey, what grabbed your attention? Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/349. Let me know. Well, that almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, but don't go anywhere, as you are about to hear a really good new track from Lockie Doley. Lockie's a mate of mine. He's a wonderful musician. He's also the keyboard player for Jimmy Barnes, and he wrote the music bed for this show. So I'll play that at the very end of this episode. Hey, plenty of marketing gold coming your way in the weeks ahead. Next week, I interrogate physio Brad Beer about a groundbreaking new pricing strategy that he's implemented that's taken his business to the next level. Hey, do you remember that interview I did with Kylie Roberts of Alinta Bar, which is sort of like a yoga Pilates studio? She's one of the few business owners I've spoken to who's invested in creating a scent, SCENT, as part of her branding.
We had in Melbourne someone that specialises in scents. And so Claire worked with him to develop the scents. And then what we did was we actually went and tested them. So we came up with I think it was like 4 or 6 that we loved. And then they tested them, and there were 2 clear winners.
I think it's, what are we talking, by the way, sandalwood or a bit of a bubble gum, vanilla ice cream?
Well, to be honest, funny, we were actually going down a very natural essential oil fragrance, but they were not the ones that were the most popular.
Oh, I do love a business owner that's willing to focus on those little 1%ers. Kylie goes on to share a bunch of other little things she does in her business that have a really big impact. You can listen to my full interview with her over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on iTunes, which I would love you to do. Hey, I'd also love to hear from you. Tim@timreid, reid.com.au. Hit me up. Tell me what you love about the show, what you don't love, what you want more of, less of. I don't know. Say hi. Tim@timreid.com.au. Be sure to grab a free hard copy of the Key Person of Influence book over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. Only if you want to become more valuable, visible and connected in your industry, though. And thank you to Workplace Assured for their support. Remember, no matter what curly question you have around running that beautiful business of yours and the people who work in it, the team at Workplace Assured can shed some light on it, saving you a whole lot of unnecessary expense and worry along the way. You can try them out at 1300 496 955 for free today. All right, Lockie Doley, Love Light. That's the name of the track you're about to hear. If you love it, grab a copy at Lockie, LACHYDOLEY.com. Until next week, have a wonderful week. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now, and here's Lockie Dolly's Love Light.
Turn it on, baby, I'm coming home tonight. Been so long, but you're always on my mind. Man, get out of my way, 'cause baby, I can feel you call. Oh, like a shining star that night. Oh, straight to your heart. So come on, baby, shine your love light. Shine on into the day. Come on, baby, shine your love light. Shine on. Love light. I'm on fire. Ain't nobody gonna stop me now. 100 miles and I'll be by your side. Drive past the bar, yeah, remember, but I just saw you, baby. Pull into the drive and then I find you. You said, honey, why'd you take so long? So come on, baby, shine your love light. Shine on into the day. Come on, baby, shine your love light. Shine on your love light. Shine your love light. Shine it on into the day. Come on, baby, shine your love light. Shine it on, shine it on. So come on, baby, shine.